Grandfather, no, I'm not. But as it went forward from Richard Nixon, all of them said energy independent, if you let me. That couldn't happen. Now, as we went forward on imports, by the time we got to the Gulf War in 1991, we were importing 42%. And I started making speeches in the early 90s and said, my God, we cannot do this. We can't go to 50% of our oil used in America every day is going to be imported oil. I said, the security of all that, and you know, I'd make a speech like to a group like you, and when I got through, somebody said, well, that's pretty bad, isn't it? I said, well, good luck, you know, slap me on the back. And nothing happened, of course, because I couldn't do anything, and they couldn't either, and so nothing, you know, we just went on talking about it. Okay, as we went through the 90s, at some point I said, we are going to be importing 60% of our crude by the end of the 90s because the production in America is going down so much, and we have drilled a big field. It's hard to find the oil, and we are in a declining situation and depending on more and more oil all the time. So in the mid-90s I said we'll be 60% by the time we get to 2000. There were 3 articles written that I'd lost my mind. You know, that was kind of the tone of the article, that there's no way this could happen, but it did. And so by the time we got to 2000 we were importing 60%. Now we're just under 70%, about 67.5% is where we are today. Now, if we continue like we are, that in 10 years, by 2018, we will be importing 75 to 80% of our oil. Okay, you know, it's kind of like just give up. You know, I mean, we have become we have been captured by foreign oil. Is what happens. Well, this has got to stop. And the reason is, you say, well, how could this have happened? Well, one, it's a lack of leadership is where you could start. We didn't have leadership in Washington that said, we can't do this. We have to develop alternatives. We have to do something different than we're doing. You know, we never got that speech. And in their defense, and then I started to look around, my wife said, well, if you're going to blame them, why wouldn't you blame yourself? You understood it, and you didn't do anything about it. And so I thought, well, that's true. Hell, man, shut up. But it is. I mean, we're all to blame. All of us are to blame. That's what happened. And the reason we were trapped by this is because of cheap oil. We had cheap oil, and nothing happened. Move over now and look with me at, well, China, for instance, and in Europe. You know, they have Japan. They all have bullet trains. And when we go visit there, we want to ride on their train. And I was in Beijing. We were not this summer, but summer '07. And we got on a train and went out the airport. We didn't need to go, but that's where the train went. So we were back. I said, where do we go? It said, the airport. Well, it was, man, it was a fast trip, wasn't it? But we don't have a train like that in America. Why don't we have a train like that? We had cheap oil. You couldn't support it. I mean, it wouldn't, it just didn't happen. And so we don't have. But when you look at, we did have nuclear, and now we're 20% is our power generation from nuclear. And look at the French, they're 80%. They didn't have oil, and we thought we did. We thought we had oil because it was cheap, that it was coming into us so easy. But I hate like hell for the French never beat me at anything. So it's 80%, we're 20%. Now look at the most highly developed country of all for wind, Germany. Germany is, and they don't have any wind. It's highly subsidized, their wind program is, but they're using what wind they have to their advantage. And Spain, same way. The Danes, the same way. And here we are. We've done very, very little on wind. Okay, I've given you the problem. We are now spending $700 billion a year for imported oil. The other day somebody said it's not 700, it's 658. Okay? Stand corrected, 658, that's too much too. And we've got 70%, well, I said 67.5%, but about 70% of our oil used every day is imported oil. And of the 70% we're using, 38% of it comes from the Mideast and Africa, the two most unstable areas of all. Okay, so here we are. You think, how could we have gotten in this spot? With the security issue, and I had meetings after I came out with this on July the 8th, that's when I started, and I said I want to elevate this to the #1 issue in this campaign. Now, you mentioned health care was coming up pretty fast, and some things had to be done. If we don't solve the energy problem, in 10 years, we're not going to have enough money for health care or education, either one. We're going to be brought we're now spending $700 billion a year for foreign oil, and the Iraqi war is 4.5 times the cost of the Iraqi war. Have you had any politician get up to us and stand in front of us and say, we have something that's a lot more expensive than the Iraqi war? It's buying foreign oil is what it is, and we've got to stop doing it. And then you think, is there a way that we can stop this? Actually, there is. There is a way to do it. So as I started to look at it, I thought, we've gotten really very, very lucky. I think it's divine intervention is what it is. And we have can you all hear me all right?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. My grant, no, that's enough.